You think you are at the top of the food chain. I'm sorry, but you're just a survivor. 41 years ago, there was a creature. It was a crocodile, but it evolved the body of a shark. When scientists first saw its fossil, they fell silent for 3 whole days. Because from an evolutionary standpoint, this thing shouldn't even exist. It abandoned its scales, grew fins, and even learned to give birth in the ocean. At 8 meters long, a single bite could crush you, bones and all, into pieces. It ruled the oceans for 20 million years, 100 times longer than human history, and then vanish overnight. No volcanoes, no meteors, no traces at all. To this day, paleontologists dare not answer one question. What kind of thing could cause the mass extinction of an ocean apex predator? Even scarier, if that thing is still out there, guess what it's eating right now? Scientists gave this creature a name, Thalatasuchia, which means ocean crocodiles. But let me tell you, this name is far too gentle. It doesn't do justice to its ferocity at all. The story begins 200 million years ago. At that time, Earth had just gone through a mass extinction, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. The oceans were left in shambles, and a massive number of ecological niches opened up. Right at this moment, a group of crocodiles made a crazy decision. They were going into the ocean. You might say, what's so strange about crocodiles going into the ocean? Don't saltwater crocodiles swim in the sea too? But let me tell you, that is a completely different story. Saltwater crocodiles only occasionally wander into the sea, but this group of crocodiles intended to fully transform into marine creatures. First, they modified their tails. A normal crocodile's tail is round, like a stick, but the marine crocodile's tail evolved a shark-like tail fin. This gave their swimming speed a massive boost, allowing them to zip through the water like torpedoes. Then, their limbs began to atrophy. Their thick claws turned into flattened flippers, just like a dolphin's fins. This was the very first time true fins appeared among archosaurian animals. Do you know what this meant? It meant they abandoned the land, abandoned it forever. But the craziest change of all was that they threw away their armor. What are crocodiles most proud of? It's that suit of invulnerable, scaled armor. Why? Because in the ocean, speed is more important than defense. When you are the pursuer, you don't need armor. Scientists classified this group of fully marine-adapted crocodiles under the family Metriorhynchidae. Among all archosaurian animals, they achieved the highest degree of adaptation to the ocean, more extreme than ichthyosaurs, and more thorough than plesiosaurs. And within this family, there was a ruthless character called Plesiosuchus, with a body length close to 7 meters, equivalent to an adult killer whale. But killer whales are mammals. They are social and hunt cooperatively. Plesiosuchus, on the other hand, was a solitary killer, taking on the entire ocean alone. Plesiosuchus's mouth was full of curved, sharp teeth, not the conical teeth of a regular crocodile, but serrated blades. With one bite, it could rip dozens of kilograms of flesh off its prey. Next to its fossil, paleontologists discovered ichthyosaur bones that had been gnawed on. You heard that right, ichthyosaurs, the apex predators of the ocean at the time. Yet, in the eyes of Plesiosuchus, they were nothing more than a lunch. But Plesiosuchus wasn't even the most terrifying one. The real nightmare was called Bacchosaurus. In Greek, this fellow's name means tearing lizard. Just by hearing the name, you know it was no gentle beast. Bacchosaurus fossils were first discovered in Germany. At first, scientists thought these were the teeth of some kind of carnivorous dinosaur, because its teeth looked so much like those of a Tyrannosaurus rex, large, curved, with fine serrations along the edges. Only later did they discover that this thing was a crocodile with dinosaur teeth. Dacosaurus had a very short head, unlike the flattened heads of ordinary crocodiles. From the side, its head was triangular, like an axe. This shape of head provides a stronger bite force. Scientists have estimated that the power of a single bite from Dacosaurus is enough to bite through an ichthyosaur's belly. And this creature was particularly smart. It knew how to leverage its own advantages. Dacosaurus wouldn't tear and bite frantically like sharks do. It would first slam its axe-like head into its prey, stunning and injuring them, and then slowly enjoy its meal. This hunting strategy was practically unmatched in the oceans at the time. Even more incredible, fossils of Dacosaurus were not only found in Europe, but also in South America. Its bones have been dug up in Argentina and Mexico. What does this mean? It means this creature was extremely widespread, practically spanning across the entire Tethys Ocean. That ocean was the predecessor of today's Mediterranean and Indian Oceans. Imagine that scene. 150 million years ago, in the warm tropical oceans, swam a group of scaleless crocodiles. Their tails were like a shark's, their limbs like a dolphin's, and their teeth like a dinosaur's. Any creature that entered their territory would become prey. Ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, schools of pachycormus fish, and even pterosaurs flying too low. Not a single one could escape. This group of marine crocodiles ruled the oceans for 80 million years, from the early Jurassic all the way to the early Cretaceous. Do you know what 80 million years means? Humans have only been walking upright for 7 million years. Their reign lasted more than 10 times longer than human history. But then, something bizarre happened. Around 125 million years ago, this family suddenly vanished from the Earth. There was no asteroid impact, no supervolcanic eruption, and no drastic changes in sea levels. Without a trace, they went extinct completely silently. The last fossil of a marine crocodile was found in early Cretaceous strata, and then there were no more, as if they had never existed. Paleontologists have proposed several hypotheses. The first theory is global cooling. From the late Jurassic to the early Cretaceous, the Earth did experience a drop in temperature. Marine crocodiles could not regulate their body temperature. Cold-blooded animals become sluggish in low temperatures. Perhaps they froze to death. The second theory is more interesting. Some scientists believe that their prey evolved. Marine crocodiles mainly ate fish. And during that period, an emerging group of fish called teleosts began to rise. Teleosts swam faster, were more agile, and were harder to catch. The marine crocodiles couldn't keep up. But the most terrifying hypothesis is the third one. Some say it's because mosasaurs appeared. What were mosasaurs? They were the ultimate apex predators of the Cretaceous oceans. They could grow up to 17 meters long, nearly twice the size of marine crocodiles. Moreover, their body structure was strikingly similar to marine crocodiles. A streamlined body, robust limbs, and a powerful tail. They were essentially an upgraded version of the marine crocodile. Perhaps marine crocodiles didn't die out naturally. They were outcompeted, completely replaced by a more powerful and ruthless newcomer. Just like in business competition, it's not that you weren't good enough, it's that your opponent was too strong. This is the cruelty of evolution. So what if you ruled for 80 million years? As long as a competitor better adapted to the environment emerges, you have to step aside. There are no exceptions. But the story doesn't end here. In 2024, a research team from the University of Southampton in the UK published a paper. They used CT scans on 11 marine crocodile skulls and discovered a shocking secret. The sinuses of marine crocodiles were completely different from modern whales. A whale's sinuses shrink as diving depth increases, which helps resist water pressure. But a marine crocodile's sinuses would actually expand in deep water. What does this mean? It means marine crocodiles couldn't dive deep. They could only operate in shallow waters. Once they dove too deep, their skulls would be crushed by the water pressure. This was their Achilles heel. Scientists also found that inside the marine crocodile's sinuses has a special salt gland. This gland can excrete excess salt from the body. When the marine crocodile contracts its jaw muscles, the salt gland is squeezed, and then they will sneeze, spraying the salt out. Just like today's marine iguanas. A sneezing crocodile. Can you imagine that? This image is both terrifying and comical. These discoveries tell us that although marine crocodiles were extremely adapted to the ocean, they had a fatal flaw. They couldn't dive deep like whales, nor could they breathe as efficiently as dolphins. They were stuck halfway through evolution, just one step away from dominating the deep sea. If given another tens of millions of years, perhaps in today's oceans, there would be a giant creature with a crocodile's snout swimming around. But history has no ifs. The mosasaur came, and the marine crocodile left. Now, back to the question at the beginning. If marine crocodiles hadn't gone extinct, what would today's world look like? First of all, sharks might not have become the rulers of the ocean, because marine crocodiles were more ferocious than sharks, and more adaptable. For sharks to survive until today, to some extent, they have to thank the extinction of marine crocodiles. Secondly, humans might never dare to go into the sea. An 8-meter-long, sneezing crocodile with dinosaur-like teeth, cruising through every warm sea area. Swimming, surfing, diving? Forget about it. The story of the marine crocodile tells us that there has never been a permanent ruler on this planet. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how long you have ruled, one day a stronger existence will come to replace you. It was true for dinosaurs, true for marine crocodiles. So can we humans be an exception? Next time you go to the beach, looking at that azure ocean, think about it. 140 million years ago, right beneath these waters, there once swam the most terrifying apex predators on Earth. They disappeared, but the ocean is still here, and we are just another group of passing guests. Your pet cat killed a dynasty. 23 million years ago, there was a creature that ruled Africa. It was 3 times larger than a lion, with a bite force that could crush elephant bones. When scientists saw its skull for the first time, they fell completely silent for 3 minutes. Because that skull was longer than a human's entire upper body. It is called Simba Kubwa, the most powerful land killer in Earth's history. But what's even more absurd is that its bones were in a museum drawer, mistaken for another animal, and left there for a full 40 years. No one recognized it. And the culprit that drove it to extinction is currently snoring on your couch. It's the cat you raise. Its ancestors did it. To figure out how this cat could wipe out a dynasty, you first have to know how powerful that dynasty was. 66 million years ago, an asteroid crashed into the Gulf of Mexico. 75% of Earth's species vanished on the spot, including all non-avian dinosaurs. You might have memorized this sentence, but what you haven't thought about is that the top of the food chain became vacant. No T-Rex, no Allosaurus, no large predators of any kind. The role of apex killer across the planet was completely unfilled. And then recruitment began. The first batch to fill the positions wasn't what you'd think. Not lions, not tigers, not bears. These guys hadn't even evolved yet back then. The ones that rushed to fill the top predator spots were a class of creatures you've probably never heard of. They are called hyaenodonts, or in plain terms, the order Creodonta. They appeared shortly after the dinosaurs went extinct. For the next 45 million years, across Africa, Eurasia, and North America, wherever there were large herbivores, they were there hunting. What does 45 million years mean? Do you know how long modern humans have existed from start to finish? Less than 300,000 years. The duration of the hyaenodonts' reign on Earth was 150 times that of our entire history. Simba Kuba was the final peak of this dynasty. Now, you have to imagine the world it lived in. 23 million years ago, the place you now call the Sahara Desert was not a desert, but a green paradise. Rivers, lakes, and open grasslands, with abundant rain and a warm, humid climate. Herds of early elephant species rolled around on the grass. In the dense woods by the rivers, all kinds of rhinos and antelopes hid. Food was absurdly plentiful. Right on this land, Simba Kuba stood above everything else. Okay, so exactly how big was it? To answer this question, you first have to know how it was found. 1963, Libya, a place called Gebel Zelton. British paleontologist Robert Savage was excavating Miocene strata. In the preceding years, bone fragments of some large animals had appeared here. Nothing special. But that afternoon, a worker's hoe hit something unusually hard. Savage bent down to take a look, and then he froze. The ground slowly cracked open, and a grayish-brown bone gradually outlined itself from the gravel bit by bit. It was a skull, 66 centimeters from end to front. What does 66 centimeters feel like? Then measure up to your belt line. It's just about that distance. An entire massive head, just that big, with a zygomatic width of 47 centimeters, wider than your shoulders. Right down the middle of the top of the head towered a sagittal crest. That was used for attaching ultra-large mass-eater muscles. The teeth were exposed. Savage stared at that row of teeth for a long time. He later wrote in his journal that his hands kept shaking. But that wasn't even the scariest part. What he didn't expect was that he didn't know what kind of creature this skull belonged to. Then he figured it out. It belonged to a species that had never been named. Savage named it Megastotherium. In Latin, the original meaning is greatest beast, crusher of bones. A name alone already explains everything. Okay, so how heavy was it? Here comes an unexpected twist. Next to the skull, Savage also discovered a batch of postcranial bones, limb bones, vertebrae, and foot bones. He credited all of these to Megastotherium. Based on the length of the limb bones, comparing them to the limb bones of a brown bear, he calculated a body weight of about 880 kilograms. What does that mean? An adult polar bear is about 400 to 600 kilograms. 880 kilograms is like 2 polar bears stacked together. But later, someone re-identified that batch of postcranial bones, and the conclusion was that they weren't Megastotherium bones at all. Those bones belonged to another animal, called a bear dog, an ancient large omnivorous carnivore. It happened to die in the same patch of sand, and the bones got mixed together. Nobody noticed at the time. This kind of thing happens in paleontology much more frequently than you think. As a result, all that Megastotherium left behind was just a single skull. A skull with no body skeleton, no limbs, just a skull. This brought about a problem that went unresolved for decades. How heavy was it exactly? Conservatives said 500 kilograms. Radicals said it could exceed 1,000 kilograms. And the most extreme estimates even claimed up to 3 tons, roughly equivalent to a baby elephant. The mainstream consensus in modern paleontology falls between 500 and 1,100 kilograms. Do you know what the heaviest pure carnivorous land mammal alive today is? It's the polar bear with the heaviest individual in recorded history at 700 kilograms. And that was a once-in-a-century fat one. Even if Megastotherium was only 500 kilograms, it was still larger than any living land carnivore. So how on earth did this monster hunt? First, get a sense of its weaponry. Modern felids have a pair of carnassial teeth that occlude up and down like industrial shears, specifically designed to slice muscle fibers. One pair is enough to rip open a zebra. But that isn't even the most terrifying part. Simba Kubo had 3 pairs of carnassial teeth. 3 pairs of shears operating simultaneously, with their cutting force directly compounding. One bite down and anything would fall apart. But 3 pairs of shears were what made it legendary. What truly drove its prey to despair was that sagittal crest and that pair of zygomatic arches widened to the point of deformation. The combination of these 2 structures meant its masseter muscles could accomplish something ordinary predators couldn't do, crushing bones. Based on biomechanical model analysis and estimation of the skull by paleontologists, its bite force could easily crush the bones of an adult elephant. Have you ever tried to snap a fresh chicken leg bone with your hands? It's very hard to break because bones are elastic. An elephant's bones are solid and thicker than your forearm. When Simba Kubo bit down, it was like you biting a potato chip. Some scientists believe that Simba Kubo was primarily a scavenger, like a jumbo version of a hyena, specifically gnawing on elephant carcasses left behind by other animals, surviving by crushing bones to suck out the marrow. Other scientists believe it actively hunted. The truth is probably a combination of both. It hunted and it scavenged, just like modern lions, except its size was so massive that nothing dared to steal from it. Okay, so why did it disappear? For many years, the answer given by textbooks was very simple. It was defeated by smarter animals. Felids, canids, ursids. These modern carnivores evolved larger brains, faster speeds, and more complex social structures, phasing out these primitive, dumb hyenodonts. This story sounds very coherent, fitting the intuition that evolution equals progress. But the truth is a different matter. In 2019, paleontologist Matthew Borths from Ohio University and his colleague Nancy Stevens published a study. They analyzed a batch of fossils unearthed in Kenya between 1978 and 1981. This batch of bones had been placed in a museum drawer with a label that read, "Hyena." It just lay there for a full 40 years, and no one gave it a second look. When Borths opened the drawer and saw the row of teeth inside, his first reaction was, "These cannot be hyena teeth." This single tooth was larger than his entire palm. This was a completely new species. Borths named it Simba Kubo kutokafrika. In Swahili, the meaning is big lion from Africa. Even though it was neither a lion nor a cat, it was a hyenodont. With an estimated body weight exceeding 1.5 tons, it was even more ancient than Megastotherium, living approximately 22 million years ago. And this discovery made scientists realize that the entire lineage of giant apex predators very likely originated in Africa before spreading northward into Eurasia. This batch of bones had slept in a drawer for 40 years, holding the origin story of an entire dynasty. But the discovery of Simba Kubo also brought out a deeper question. Also around 22 to 23 million years ago, the ancestors of cats, dogs, and hyenas began to flood into Africa from Eurasia via land bridges. The lineages of 2 top predator groups met on the exact same continent. The result was not war, but a slow death. Here is where the cognitive flip happens. You always thought hyenodonts were defeated by smarter, faster opponents, right? But while sorting through the fossil record, Borths discovered that in terms of brain capacity, Hyanodonts were actually not much farther behind early felids and canids. They weren't particularly slow either. The mobility of small to medium hyanodonts was comparable to early canids of the same period. So what exactly killed them? The answer lies in the teeth, specifically those 3 pairs of carnassial teeth. All modern carnivorous mammals, from your pet cat to polar bears, have only 1 pair of carnassial teeth. 1 pair is used to slice meat, and the remaining teeth behind them can crush bones, grind up plants, and chew anything. A single pair of carnassial teeth is a constraint, but even more so, it is freedom. Behind it is an entire dietary system that can be flexibly switched. Your cat can eat cat food today. Tomorrow, it can gnaw on fish bones. And the day after tomorrow, it can drink chicken broth. It can survive no matter what. Hyanodonts had 3 pairs of carnassial teeth. But this was a trap. 3 pairs of carnassial teeth meant the entire row of teeth could only do one thing: slicing fresh, warm meat. There were no molars to crush bones, nor flat teeth to grind plants. It was like a chef's knife. It could only slice sashimi, but couldn't slice bread, chop ribs, or mince garlic. At a sashimi station, this knife was a divine tool, but once the menu changed, it instantly became scrap metal. When Africa began to dry up 20 million years ago, when the populations of large herbivores began to shrink, and when prey became harder and harder to find, the ancestors of cats could gnaw on carrion, eat insects, chew bone marrow, and make it through the lean years. Simba Kubwa couldn't. Its teeth only recognized fresh meat. Without fresh meat, this set of precise slicing machinery completely lost its purpose. The last of the giant apex predators vanished from the fossil record forever, about 7 million years ago. An entire dynasty of 45 million years. Left behind not a single descendant, left behind no legacy whatsoever, and was wiped clean from the earth, as if it had never existed. Meanwhile, the set of genes that defeated them is currently stepping on your lap, kneading dough and purring away. The cat you raise, every time it opens its mouth to reveal that pair of carnassial teeth, they are followed by a row of versatile teeth that can chew cat food, bite rubber bands, and nip at your fingers. That is the ultimate code to the end of a 45 million year dynasty. Not because it was stronger, but because it was more willing to compromise. The world never rewards the strongest. The world rewards those who are willing to accept good enough.